Dear Pats Nation, it's just about time. Yeah, we're back. You know it's Dear Pats Nation. Nation. Yeah, it's Dear Pats Nation. Nation. Come on. Yeah, it's Dear Pats Nation. And the show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Yes, and we are back. Welcome to Dear Pats Nation at a brand new time / very old time, going back to when it all started, because I am so insecure with myself that I have to repeat history when my main demographic was 12-year-olds and drunks who watch Dear Pats Nation. What's going on? My name is Ray Rout. I am Toronto's pride and joy. And I'm here, of course, as always, with my broadcast partner, the angriest of nerds in Boston, Mr. Producer Mike. There is a lot to talk about today. It was an eventful few days last week with the Eagles and the Patriots holding some joint practices, having some skirmishes into their second practice. And then, of course, the game. And then the Patriots don't have a punter. And the Patriots traded a receiver, and there's a whole lot going on in New England, including, according to their head coach, some depth issues. And that is going to be our first story that we start with today, because the Patriots head coach Mike Vrabel raised some eyebrows on Saturday after the Patriots-Eagles game when he said, quote, "I don't think we have a very deep team," end quote. And that was, of course, after the preseason game. And it sparked speculation about whether he was subtly calling out the front office for not adding more depth. Vrabel, of course, tried his best to shut that down on Monday on WEEI, saying, quote, "We are the front office. We are making all the decisions. We are all included in this. It was about the young guys we have to develop." That was also why Drake Maye, A.J. Brown, and other starters still haven't played a single preseason snap. Mike, do you take Vrabel at his word that it was just purely about developing young players, or do you think that there's a real concern about the roster depth buried in that comment by Vrabel?
I think it's a little bit of both, and I think it's a third thing that really no one wants to say, although it's more prevalent and spreading throughout the league. You have a lot of these coaches, especially on the West Coast, that just aren't playing their starters. Sean McVay hit for like 3 years now, hasn't played any of his starters and really never plans to. They don't want to risk them getting hurt. It really comes down to the starters are making too much money. And you need to see what you can get out of these depth pieces to see where they're at, to see if you need to go get somebody like the Patriots, ironically, also have been adding people, probably because they don't feel that depth is adequate. So it's a double, triple whammy here.
So, Mike, I wasn't a great hockey player. I was good enough that I was like a depth selection on my high school team, but not good enough to consistently start. Does that make sense to you?
Yep.
So when I heard that Mike Vrabel, or when I heard what Mike Vrabel said, I put myself in the position of those players who know they're not a part of that starting 11 on whatever side of the ball that they play on. And to me, Vrabel can say whatever he'd like. He can do whatever kind of damage control he chooses to do. The fact of the matter is, the head coach of the New England Patriots went live on air and said, quote, "I don't think we have a very deep team," end quote. If you are a New England Patriots player who is a second or third on the depth chart, does that, what Vrabel said, motivate you or demoralize you? Because I'll tell you my personal opinion. If I was a player playing under a coach who just publicly announced I'm not valued, I'm doing everything I can to prove him wrong. But there's also a certain level of respect that's gone. Meaning, if I do prove him wrong this year and my contract is up next year, there ain't no way in hell I'm signing to play with that guy ever again. Now, here's what I'm going to also say. For everything bad that he was, Bill Belichick mother effed a lot of players in meetings. We heard all about Johnny F. in Foxborough. We heard about all of that. You know what Bill Belichick never did? He never brought those kind of things to the media. He never talked about there not being any depth. Mike Vrabel did that. He slipped up. He made his true feelings known. And I don't care what the fans think. I don't care what the media is running with. You know who else heard what Mike Vrabel said? That entire locker room. Which means if you're not one of those starting 11 on the offense, defense, or special team, and you're working your ass off day in and day out for this guy, and he's coming out and going, we have no depth. There's going to be a lot of big FUs in that locker room. Mr. Rossini screwed up and lost some trust in the locker room with what he did with Diana this year. And now he's doing this. And Robert Kraft is running his mouth about Gonzalez's contract, and Gonzalez isn't happy about it. And you start adding all of those pieces up together. Mm-hmm. And maybe, just maybe, Bill Belichick and Tom Brady were responsible for the dynasty and not anybody else. However, I want your take, Mike. How do you feel? I want you to put yourself in the players' perspective right now. Not the media, not the fans, the players in that locker room. You hear what Mike Vrabel has to say on live air.
Yeah, I mean, I hear that, and I understand where you're coming from, but personally, I think Vrabel can get away with saying stuff like that because behind closed doors and on that practice field, we've seen how hands-on he is, especially with some of these developmental guys. And I think that's a warning shot across the bow of some of these guys. And then he's got guys in the room now that, you know, are in year 2 of the system, brings in guys like A.J. Brown and Kevin Byard that are used to him. And I think their job is going to be to, like, you know, go to the other guys and go like, listen, like, you got to get your shit together. Like, he's trying to make a point. Like, this is to motivate you, not to, you know, not to kick you when you're down, but maybe give you a kick in the ass, you know?
Today is Monday, August 24th. I'm going to give you a Ray Route hot take.
Okay.
And I want this noted, Michael.
Hold on. Open the notes.
12, 14, 16, 18 months, whenever we have this conversation, because it will come up, and it'll be less than 2 years. When we have the when did Mike Vrabel lose the locker room conversation,
this will be it.
I'm going to tell you it started right here, because we know what happened this offseason, Mike. Everybody does. And you know what? A lot of those same players who you just hit across the bow had your back this offseason, because every single one of them was asked about it. Every single one of those players in that locker room was asked about you cheating on your wife, and they all had your back. And when they needed their head coach publicly to have their back, he decided to play a little bit of head game and throw you under the bus. No, I don't care if you're Mike Vrabel or Bill Belichick. You don't earn the respect to make that kind of comment publicly. And I'm telling you that as an athlete, and I'm telling you that as a player, and I'm telling you that as somebody who played sports at a high level. Nobody earns that type of respect. Chip Kelly lost the locker room in Philadelphia because of the same BS. And I can name coach after coach. You know who doesn't do this? Andy Reid. You know who didn't do this? Bill Belichick. How many times did Bill Belichick would have came out after a preseason win and say, need to coach better, need to play better? We all need, he might send that general audience, but to sit there and say, I don't think we have depth on this team. I think Mike Vrabel played a hand. And I'm telling you, Mike, when we have this conversation, when did Vrabel lose the locker room? I want you to remember August 24th, 2026, that I said it was this Saturday, whatever day that was. Was it the 22nd?
Fair enough.
All right. Let's. Yeah. So I just want that noted, because we will have this conversation.
It's in the notes.
Yeah. And I want everybody to know I came at this not as like a hot take specialist, not as a media. I came at this from an athlete's perspective. When I saw that, and everybody was like, whoa, that was a shot at Elliott Wolf. That was this, that was that. I immediately went into the player's headspace and went, whoa.
See, I think if he called the team as a whole out, but to say we're not a very deep team, right? That's the exact verbatim quote.
Because the question was asked, why aren't the starters starting? And he said,
Right.
because we're not a very deep team.
Right.
Meaning, I have no faith in anybody outside of my starting 11, and I can't afford one of them to get hurt because I have nobody who can step in and do their job. Now, it's fine. Hey, look, you can believe that, Mike. It's fine. I don't say you don't have to. I think we're all smart enough and old enough to understand that and be like, yeah, absolutely. You know what? Tommy DeVito is not as good as Drake Maye, right? Like, I think we're fine to acknowledge that, but you just can't do that as the head coach, because there's guys in there who could have signed with 24 other teams this year who signed with you to fight for a depth position, a second or third position, who just heard you say, I'm not very deep.
Yeah.
And that's what you just can't do it. It's a locker room thing.
No, I mean, I agree with you in the broader perspective that when Vrabel comes out, especially in these post-game things, he wears his, emotions on his sleeves. And this isn't the first time he's kind of tripped up over something. And I'm not saying you need to be Bill Belichick. In fact, I encourage the opposite of that. But that, to your point, that would have been a situation where you kind of need to blend the two and go like, listen, we just need to play better and add something to that.
He took a timeout in the first quarter of the game on Saturday, and he was asked about it. And he basically said the team was playing like S, so I took a timeout because I felt like I had things I had to get off my chest there. I'm fine with that kind of comment. I'm fine with, like, you saw it, I saw it, they knew it, everybody knew it. It's all over film, nothing's hiding. I had to chew them out. That is. I'm with you. That's something Belichick never would have done. He would have been like, I took a timeout because I had to make the decision to take a timeout, and you don't understand football, so why should I explain it to you? I'm fine with Vrabel showing that passion. I'm not okay with, hey, why aren't the starters starting? Because I don't think we have a very deep team. Like, I'm just not. From a locker room perspective, yes, the starters matter. I want to remind Vrabel, like, you have AJ Brown, who we all know is a head case. He was a head case in Tennessee. He was a head case in Philly. He effing hated you in Tennessee. Can we not forget about that? That he hated Vrabel in Tennessee. Like, is everybody just going to ignore that fact? And I think it could just be because of BS like this. And you could say, like, he's earned the right to say this, but he's won nothing, so he's earned nothing. You know what I mean? Like, when you win a Super Bowl, when you become a winning coach consistently across the board, all I saw was you underachieve in Tennessee with a pretty good defense and one of the best running backs to ever play the game and an okay quarterback. I'll give you Ryan Tannehill. I saw you underachieve in Tennessee, what probably could have been better. I saw you bring a team that never should have went to the Super Bowl here on the backs of, I'm sorry, we have to acknowledge it, the easiest schedule ever played in the NFL. And now, after week 2, you're already in panic mode that you're going to start talking about no depth. I'm sorry, you can't send that kind of message. Let's go on to the next story, though, because we did have some big news today after we sat here last week and said maybe Kayshon Boutte has just made the point that he cannot be traded. The Patriots have traded wide receiver Kayshon Boutte to the Texans. Houston sent over safety Jalen Reed, who played in 7 games as a 6th-round pick, rookie in 2025, and a 2028 7th-round draft pick to the Patriots. The trade comes a week after Houston lost wide receiver Jaden Higgins from a torn ACL. And I think there was a lot of rumors from the day Higgins got hurt. There was a lot of people already believing that Boutte to Houston would be a natural trade. Boutte, he was entering his final year of his contract. He started 10 games last season. He totaled 33 receptions for 551 yards and 6 touchdowns, which some people, and I'm in this boat, would say that with having Stephon Diggs on the field and taking away 2 defenders consistently, maybe you could have had a more of a productive season. I'm just putting it out there. Like, I think you could have been more productive about it. However, this move came after, like a day after Vrabel talked about the roster depth. He's cleared up what was a crowded receiver room. We knew that somebody had to go. We wondered who it was going to be, especially with Romeo Doubs and AJ Brown really solidifying the 1 and 2 position, and Brown and Boutte playing the same position, obviously, on the field. Now, I did say why couldn't you just split them at different parts of the field and have them play the same? I think it's something the Patriots could have done, but they chose not to. Mike, so New England landed Jalen Reed. He's got some promise, but he's very unproven. And of course, he's 6th round and he's safety depth. There's conversation about whether or not he would even make the roster out of cuts still, if it wasn't for how lack of depth the Patriots had. He was also tied for the team's most touchdowns for the last 2 seasons with Hunter Henry, Keyshawn Boutte. So I got to ask you, does this feel like the Patriots got enough for him? Is this a win regardless? There's a lot of people online who aren't happy with this move. And I'm just wondering where you sit on everything, Mike.
Yeah, this the whole narrative around the Keyshawn Boutte thing, especially today, and I kind of knew this was going to happen, right? I send for background for the audience, I send Ray like the clips of like Boston media or like little snippets of what they're saying throughout the day, and like you would have thought Keyshawn Boutte was, as productive a wide receiver as AJ Brown has ever been, the way they were talking about him today. There's a lot of context behind this, right? You mentioned it. The last year, the receiver room is crowded. Him and AJ Brown and him and really Romeo Doubs, right? Romeo Doubs is capable of playing that X role as well. So you're going to have 2 guys that really take from his plate. And I think that's the biggest thing here is they've been trying to move on from Keyshawn Boutte since last season. That's not new news. Like, listen, I'm just aggregating that. We all know that. That's well known. But the piece that's getting really looked over here, and it's a tale as old as time, is fans overvalue their roster players, their depth players. And I think that's what Keyshawn Boutte is. He has a good rapport with the quarterback. I heard somebody kind of make the analogy of like Jacoby Myers, like don't give up what you have because it's a known quantity. And I would just say, like Ray just put it into perfect terms when he said it. Like he's been the like one of the touchdown leaders for the Patriots for the last like 2 or 3 seasons. Like this team is awful or was awful. Vrabel and company are trying to move it forward. And I don't think a guy that you're most likely not going to pay anything next year or move on from anyway, when your receiver room is crowded, it's not a huge loss. And the Jalen Reed thing, to me, he sounds like a little bit of a strong safety from what I've read, probably good at covering tight ends, which is a glaring problem right now with this defense. Like, they carried one of their biggest problems on defense into the preseason this year with the Eagles for everybody to see. Like, you might as well just leak out a tight end, and it was a guaranteed like 12-yard pass. So depth there at a big slot. I'm not mad about it for Keyshawn Boutte.
I have to agree with you, Mike. I wanted to be a little bit combative to you, but I am kind of the same as you. I think that most people are overvaluing who Keyshawn Boutte is. I do believe, Mike, he might have brought a little bit more value than a unproven 6th round pick and a 7th round pick. Like maybe a 5th round pick could have been there, a 4th, maybe somewhere on a team that like Houston, who could be desperate for a receiver. If it's mainly and strictly because he's going to cover tight ends, then great. I've read a lot that he might not even make the 52-man roster, and at the end of this training camp, I'll have to see. But yeah, I mean, again, I go back to what I said at the beginning. I feel like when you're the number 2 receiver on a team that has Stephon Diggs, who got you over 1,000 yards, who's drawing double coverage consistently, I feel like you need to be more productive than 551 yards. You have to be in that 700-yard catch radius, and you weren't, and you just weren't, especially when you're talking about a team that had, to me, one of the best running back tandems in the NFL last year, who the running backs were just working so well. And then you had Stephon Diggs, who was taking up all that real estate in the wide receiver room, and all you could manage was half of what he did. Not good enough. Yeah, and I think I've seen a lot of upset people who believe he was the next coming of Randy Moss. So it is what it is.
I'm going to bring, because you brought up a good point here too, and I've mentioned this to you. I'm going to repeat it. They expect Travion Henderson and Ramondre Stevenson to continue to be very involved in the pass game. So if you're going to up the amount that Travion Henderson is involved in the pass game, because in college he was a very good pass catcher, right? That was one of the things we expected him to do a little bit more of last year. Again, you're just talking about another guy that Kayshon Boutte is going to sit on the bench for, potentially, and listen, I'm gonna combat one of the narratives that I can't stand, and I heard a bunch today. Kyle Williams is bad and can't play, or I don't like the way he plays, or he's not good enough. Listen, did anybody think Kayshon Boutte going into year 2, not in year 2, going into year 2 was going to develop into what he developed into? And if anybody says yes, you're lying. You're absolutely lying. He didn't play at all his first year. They expected him to be off the team his second year. He kind of rallied in training camp to make the team and had a good season because they basically had no one else at wide receiver. Mayo's year here. So don't tell me Kyle Williams is dead and buried. He may not end up being a very good player, but you have to give him the chance to develop.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. Again, Mike, so much happened today. I don't know where to go next. So let's go to this one since you brought him up into the fold. Report came out today that running back Travion Henderson left practice early after suffering what appeared to be a right ankle/foot injury. Henderson slipped while making a cut, immediately went to the trainer table before ultimately leaving the field. So I did not have time to research after I read this. Do you have any update on this, Mike?
So the only thing I heard and read was in Mike Reese's notes. He basically said the field was slippery. I guess people were slipping all over the place today, which is a little weird, but nothing major. Like, he wasn't carted off. They weren't saying people really had to help him. So hopefully he just rolled it or twisted it. We haven't seen any update as of right now. And hopefully it's one of those things where, give him 2 weeks of rest before the season starts here and he'll be all right.
Yeah, I have looked for updates and got nothing. So I agree with you. I hope that he's okay. If he's not there week 1, and with the running back depth being so not deep, light. I was going to say light. I was trying to come up with a better word. So light.
Oh, aggregate it. Ray said they're not deep.
Like, how significant of an injury would this be?
It'd be pretty big. We talked about Ramondre Stevenson staying fresh for the end of the season. So if you already have to start giving him like a double workload this early in the season, that would really stink. Hopefully, they had some running backs that have kind of shown something. So hopefully you elevate one of those guys and they try their butts off to try to, get onto the roster full time. It's maybe like the third running back on the roster type of thing.
So we got a message here from CDYU. Okay, I'm not even gonna. Love the show so far. Appreciate your name, CD.
Yes.
Love the show so far. You got a new listener. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate that. However, I do think Williams isn't great. I can't fight with him on that, Mike. He is amazingly fast, but he does deserve a chance for sure. I agree there. Mike, I got to agree. Like, Kyle Williams is not a great receiver.
No, what did I text you today? I think he's Philip Dorsett 2.0, which for a third-round pick, he gets deep with a quarterback that's great at throwing the deep ball. You take the top off the defense once in a while, might give you 5 touchdowns a season, might give you a touchdown in a crucial moment like he did in the Ravens and the Tampa game last year. And if he develops, great. If he's not much more than that, okay, they probably move on from him next season. Who knows?
Get a hell of a catch Saturday night.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that's I'm hoping that that's the little fire that we can get from him. I agree that the Patriots can get from him, where it's like we need some speed, we need some, we need a way, and they go. Mike, like I had so much planned for today, and then so much happened today that I'm just going through. I think the bigger news to me that came out today is that Christian Gonzalez was a full participant at Patriots practice today. So maybe he really was injured. Maybe there wasn't a narrative that everybody was trying to build. Maybe there was a narrative. Maybe an extension's coming. Maybe it's not coming. I don't know at this point, Mike, but what do you think about Gonzalez being a full participant at practice today?
I don't know if the injury was, super serious, but this speaks to Vrabel's depth comment, right? I'm not going to have my arguably best player go out there on like a tender ankle and then all of a sudden, roll his ankle or get a high ankle sprain because he's pushing it through training camp. So I think Vrabel's been really consistent with this. As far as the contract goes, like, listen, there could have been a little like, I'm sore today. Like maybe if you got my money straightened out, I wouldn't have been, type of thing. And I get that. Like, listen, he's protecting $100 million. He is protecting himself for $100 million insurance policy.
And that's what I wanted to touch upon too. When you're like, they're being cautious with his ankle. I'm like, is it Vrabel being cautious, or is it Gonzo that's like, if I push this thing too hard and I miss 6 weeks, that's 20 mil, or that's 10 mil, or that's 5 mil, or that's a whole lot of things, or we're not going to negotiate with you while you're injured. And I don't think you can negotiate with somebody when like they're on the like IL or anything like, or not the IL, whatever it is.
I'm not sure. Listen, I hear the contract speculation stuff all day long. I listen, like guys, we've talked about it. I've heard it.
I don't know, Mike. I live in Canada, so I don't hear the speculation.
No. I'm just telling you, like, it's gonna get done. I keep mentioning that they view him as an asset. So even if they end up overpaying him, unless he's the one who's being stubborn and wants $70 million a year, right? Like, and so I'm just using like an absurd quarterback number. He's like, oh, I want to get paid like the quarterbacks, and basically makes it impossible for them to pay him. They're going to find a way to get it done.
You heard it here first. Mike is reporting that Christian Gonzalez wants Patrick Mahomes' money.
Yes, he does. Tweet that.
People may or may not know this. I assume it's a lot of new audience that we get, but I am a big proponent of the kicking game. I believe that kicking is almost as important as having a great quarterback. And I think being able to, when your offense is not getting things together, being able to flip the field in the season of 2020, when the Patriots sucked with Cam Newton, on 6 separate occasions, I chose the punter as my player of the game. And people may not know this, but I'm a big fan of Bryce Behringer, who's sustained an injury bad enough Saturday that he had to leave the game, and the Patriots have signed 32-year-old kicker Matt Hack, which I think some people might be familiar with. Are you familiar with Matt Hack?
Yeah, the name rang a bell, and of course, everybody's gonna be like, "Oh, he's a hack." Yeah, we get it. Backup kicker.
He averaged 51.3 yards per punt across 7 games for the Cardinals last season. He could potentially be New England's number 1 punter come week 1. We don't really know what's going on with Behringer. Vrabel's response was he was bad enough that we had to sign a punter. So, he has no problems talking about it. There's no depth on the team, but doesn't want to give anything away in the injury department. This concerns me a lot, Mike, like probably more than people are concerned about it, because they're like, oh, it's just a punter.
Yeah.
But having a good punter can change a game for you. And I like Behringer. I think he's got a big leg. He was working on his accuracy a little bit. We had some things, but I think year 2 would have developed it, or year 3. Year 2. He was a rookie last year, right? 3, yes. The kicker was a Bergalis was a rookie last year. I hate this. I hate this. This is the worst injury yet to me. Thoughts?
Hopefully they just signed a guy for the last preseason game and for the rest of camp, and he'll be good. We'll see. It's unfortunate because it sounds like he was having a really good camp. Yeah, I know. So again, somebody out there is going to be like, "Oh, punter at camp," but like, flipping the field, kicking the crap out of the ball, which, the last year or two, like Ray said, he's been hot and cold. Like he's had some really great punts and he's had some really, not so great punts, to the point of being detrimental sometimes. But again, supposedly it like worked out the kinks and then gets hurt, which is the worst thing, to hear about anyone. It's like, oh, they're just getting going and figured themselves out and then they got hurt. So best of luck to him. Get healthy.
We appreciate you listening. We just talked about the booty trade. We just spent the last, 12, 13 minutes talking about the booty trade.
Yeah.
Ultimately, we think that Patriot fans overvalue him. We're okay with what they got. Mike is fine with him. I think that they could have got a little bit more, and not in player perspective, but they could have got a little bit more in the pick. Besides that, we don't have much more to say about it. We know that people are upset about it because they think he's better than he is, and that's kind of how the wrap up is. You can listen to it again. We just finished talking about just a couple of minutes ago. If you want to get up, but we appreciate you listening. Right now, we are going to talk a little bit about joint practices last week, because the joint practices were interesting to me, Mike. Just some of the things we were seeing and getting, and when you want to talk about starters, because we haven't seen starter versus starter in the preseason, we've had to deal with what we hear about and think. But what do you want to start with, offense or defense? Because I got takes for both.
Let's go defense first. It'll be a little less interesting. We can get it out of the way.
I don't think so, because I think they turned some heads.
Seven
Interceptions across 2 joint practices, Mike. 7 interceptions.
I said a little less. I didn't say that like irrelevant.
All right, here's what I wrote up about it. Okay. The Patriots defense turned heads with 7 interceptions across 2 joint practices against the Eagles, with Marcus Jones leading the way with 3 turnovers. Mike, 3 turnovers for Marcus Jones, including a slick pick against Jalen Hurts, where he jumped a sideline route intended for Dontavian Wicks. Jones credited the group's aggressiveness, saying, quote, Mike, I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger because I can't see right now. There we go. Saying, quote, the only way that you can make turnovers is by being aggressive and violent, which we always talk about. Kevin Byard had actually challenged the safeties to create more takeaways after the unit had just 1 turnover over the first 6 practices. And Del Puttis answered the call hours later. Jones also made clear the group's confidence is sky high heading into the season, with the stated goal of becoming the number 1 scoring defense in the NFL. Mike, does this kind of turnover surge? And they were also hitting the crap out of Jalen Hurts. I don't know if you saw that. They were smacking him around a lot. I don't know if that's more indicative to what the Patriots defense and starters could be, or how actually poor the Eagles offense could be. But does this kind of turnover surge against a good Eagles offense tell you something real about the secondary, or is it still hard to get a true feel for this defense until the games start counting?
I think, listen, there's a lot of context, and I know I'm going to repeat this because it gets lost in the internet. The Eagles were installing a new offense, which I didn't know until after this practice. Jalen Hurts didn't have either of his top 2 receivers. They were both walking on the sidelines recovering from injury. And I honestly don't think he's a great quarterback. He's just had a really good receiver, and that roster is the opposite of the Patriots. They are really deep. It's one of the best offensive lines in football, one of the best defensive lines in football, best up-to-down roster arguably in the league. That being said, Marcus Jones is a very good player. The secondary is going to be very good. I think they could make any quarterback in the league make these kind of mistakes. And I mean any quarterback, regardless of its being Patrick Mahomes, whether it be, Sam Darnold. Like the defense kept them in it last year. The secondary is going to be the best unit on the Patriots, if Christian Gonzalez is here.
So, and they were doing this without Gonzalez. It could have been 30 turnovers. It would have been with Gonzalez. Welcome to Carter, who said, used to watch you guys all the time back in 20 and 21 when we were 9th and 10th. Great. Cool to see you back. See, I told you, Mike, it was when my audience was young. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you coming back. No joke, you guys got to run to the store, but I'm gonna listen this season. Thanks for the great show, great work. No, thank you, man. Appreciate you. Appreciate everybody coming in. We're hoping to rebuild our audience. We used to have about 20,000 followers back in the day, and whatever. We're here now on this brand new channel. Please give us a subscribe. Back. Carter, CD, thank you for coming. Guzag, who just stumbled upon, give us, paper waves. Give us that, man. We'll be here every week, 10 o'clock, every Monday, talking about the Patriots. We'll also break this up in a little shorter segments across social media. All right, you want to talk about the offense now?
Well, I wanted to ask you, because we kind of talked about, what did you think, of Akis? Supposedly he kind of looked okay. He kind of had the one sack that we were talking about. Wanted to just kind of get your thoughts there on him.
So I'm going to be real. I didn't watch the preseason game, and I didn't, I saw some clips on Twitter, obviously, from the practice. It's not like I was getting a live feed from that. I did read about Akis, though, and I had some thoughts on it. He's not Warren Sapp. This is what I want to put on the table. And I think, sometimes we talk about like expectations. You talk about the expectations that we have on certain players, and I have personally put a lot of expectations on Akis, because the Patriots pass rush, as good as that defense was last season, the Patriots pass rush was kind of poor, and the run defense was even worse at times. I mean, they had stretches where it was phenomenal, but then they had stretches where it was poor. And I wanted to see that front just get a little bit better. And then the linebacker started getting injured, which concerns the hell out of me. And I think that I don't like the hot and cold. So I'm trying to give an assessment by saying my expectations are too high for the kid.
Incomplete.
Yes. Yeah. My expectations are much too high for him. I can acknowledge that.
All right, N'Keal Harry level of expectations. Got it.
Kind of close to that. Yeah. I never thought N'Keal Harry was going to be the next Randy Moss. I wasn't delusional like some of the other Patriot fans were, but I believe the impact he was going to have on the team was much greater, obviously, than he had, but then I should have expected from him. For me, though, with Akis, I think the hot and cold is what concerns me. I have a problem, Mike. I'm gonna go back to I'm gonna become the most hated man in New England again.
Yes.
I'm like telling you, once people rediscover me, I have great concerns about Mike Vrabel. I'm gonna be honest with you. And I never said that one time last season, Mike. You know that. I'm not doing this for clickbait. I have great concerns with Mike Vrabel, just with a bunch of stuff. And he is spending a lot of time with Akis. A lot of time. Enough time that I'm noticing how much time he's spending with Akis. Right?
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
No, he is. And I'm hoping it's just to kind of catch him up, right? Because he showed up about 6 weeks late.
And I understand that. But I wonder if his expectations of what Akis is supposed to be are too high. Do you know what I mean? And I think there might be a lot of Patriots faithful. There might be Patriots coaches. There might be teammates that are expecting a lot out of a rookie pass rusher who's not. We talk about this kid sometimes like he's Ray Lewis coming out of college, or Warren Sapp coming out of college, or I'm just trying to think of great defenders who were For Shore, For Fire, Richard Seymour. You know what I mean? Guys who we knew were going to come out and be these dominant monsters. Do you know who he kind of reminds me of?
Go for it.
Not in the way he plays, but in what could happen to him.
Go for it.
I'm getting Chase Winovich vibes.
I was gonna say,
I'm getting this expectations are up here, and everybody thinks he's gonna do this, and he might perform here for a year, and it just get worse as he goes on.
I was gonna say Josh Uche,
same comparison.
Yeah, so same type of thing. He's got I know what you mean. He's got a little more of the Chase Winovich vibe from the sounds of things, a lot of energy, trying to come in and impress. And I just like maybe it's a thing about New England, right? Like we haven't drafted well or a decade. So I'm always like, yeah, we'll get like one good season out of this second round pick somewhere along the line if we're lucky, and then he'll regress and he'll be off the team. So that's the mindset right now, guys. Hate to say it.
Yeah, I think I think my expectations are too high. I don't like the hot and cold. Yeah. And granted, I'll give him he's brand new in the NFL. He's 2 weeks into the NFL or 3 weeks into the NFL. He missed all of OTAs. He missed all of rookie camp. I totally get that. But I want to say we're 2 weeks away from Wednesday, week 1 of the season. And he's going to have to compete week 1 of the season. And I don't think he's going to be at the level that we want him to be at. And I think being in Boston, if this team goes 0-2 or goes 2-0, but they're really sloppy, hard fought out games, and he is not performing, he's going to get the Will Campbell treatment where he's just going to get destroyed by the media. And I think unlike Will Campbell, where we should have had high expectations, I think it'll be unfair to Akis because I think people need to just take a breath. I mean, he's the second round pick? Third round?
Mid to late second round pick, which you're putting a lot of hopes and dreams right now. And again, we did this for years around here. And that's why I'm already preconditioning myself. And again, to your point, it's unfair, but I'm ready for this kid to be the most role player of role player guys right now. And everybody, to your point, especially in this media market with this fan base, as soon as he goes to get his hands on a guy and misses a tackle, well, what a waste. Vrabel and Elliott Wolf made a giant mistake. And realistically, he's a puppy trying to, learn his way through the NFL because he's in the fire.
And I think too, as much as people want so desperately to move on from the Belichick era, I think there's a lot of people who are still stuck in the Belichick era in the sense of how they think about the construction and the makeup of a team and how people should perform. For instance, I got into a debate with a guy on X and basically how we can just let Gonzo walk. That was his take. How we can just maybe it wasn't on X, maybe it was on YouTube. It was something. I think I sent you his original. I don't know if I did.
So.
I sent you his original comment. Then him and I went back and forth. And he was like, we can just let Gonzo walk. We don't have to give in him because we produce corners you know what I mean? We know how to identify corners. We produce corners and blah, blah, blah. I was like, first of all, trivia question for everybody. Does anybody know who Bill Belichick's last great draft pick was? Do you want to guess, Mike?
Christian Gonzalez.
Oh, Christian Gonzalez. You're kidding me. Do you know that nobody developed a secondary like who, Mike?
Bill Belichick.
Do you know who's no longer a part of the New England Patriots?
Bill Belichick. Hey, you know who else he drafted? Who might be one of the, top 5 best Patriots on the team right now?
Not Marcus Jones. Not Marcus Jones.
Marcus Jones.
Are you telling me that Bill Belichick could actually identify great defensive players?
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I forget his name, but the secondary cornerback coach that was here for a decade, who's in Buffalo now, who was great at developing, corners. So
correct. And believe it or not, Steve Belichick is actually amazing with cornerbacks as well. And he's in North Carolina now. He's actually on a leave.
Maybe he'll come back.
Something's going on with Steve Belichick, by the way. Just shout out to him. He's just all of a sudden he's on a leave from Carolina. Just something's going on. But anyway. And I think that there's a little bit of this stuck in how Belichick constructed a roster. Because, yes, Bill Belichick could find the Malcolm Butlers of the world. And turn
JC
them
Jackson.
And turn them into who was JC Jackson after New England? Nobody. Who was Malcolm Butler after New England? Nobody.
Yeah.
What do you know what I mean? Like he was Belichick, two positions that Belichick could identify and build stars. Running back. Like I think, we always talk about like the Belichick couldn't draft type of thing. Like people forget about the James Whites and the Shane Vereen's and the Ben Jarvis Green Ellis's and all those players that ran through the running back position and cornerbacks and safeties. Like that was two areas that Belichick could identify.
Safeties was like his bread and butter. That's why for him, and I think he admitted this, right? Patrick Chung was like one of his personal like failures because he let him go because he really couldn't identify what to do with him on his first trip here.
His first go around, yeah. Absolutely. So we need to stop thinking about this team in the sense of Bill Belichick. As much as Vrabel came from the quote-unquote Belichick tree, he came as a player. Vrabel's a completely different coach, and Vrabel has a different way of building a system and how he builds players. Vrabel was also a linebacker. Like, you know what I mean? And he didn't study the secondary the way Belichick studied secondaries. And I guess where I'm getting back, I go back to Akis. Right? Like I go back to Akis. I would have, Mike, had more faith with Bill Belichick on the team, right? Because as much as Mike Vrabel is a great defensive guy, Mike Vrabel to me reminds me more of a head coach than Bill Belichick did. As much as Bill Belichick was a head coach, we know, he'll tell you he had nothing to do with that offense, especially when Josh McDaniels was there. 99% of his attention was on special teams and defense. Right?
Yeah, I'm going to put a little again context around this. I think Bill Belichick like 10 years ago probably would have. Bill Belichick on like his last legs here, because they brought in a lot of pass rushers and they couldn't develop them. So I'm going to give.
I'm not talking about old Bill Belichick.
Yeah,
Bill Belichick. I'm talking about the Bill Belichick that brought in Dante Hightower, Chandler Jones, Devin McCourty, Daron Harmon. You know what I mean? Like the list goes on and on and on and on. All those guys. Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to. I knew what you were talking about. Yeah.
that Belichick. He didn't pay attention to those with Charlie Weiss and Josh McDaniels there. He didn't pay attention to the offense. He focused on the defense. That's all he focused on. Right. I don't get that vibe. And I'm not here to talk about Bill Belichick. I know last year they said I'm bringing this up to talk about this year.
Yeah.
I don't get the vibe that that's the way Vrabel coaches. I think Vrabel's got his hands in all of the pies. Josh McDaniels talks about how it's much more collaborative than it was under Belichick. And sometimes I don't like that. And I didn't like it last year when I heard the coaches talking about what it's like to especially like a McDaniels, like the difference between being with Vrabel to himself, like the collaborative this and the collaborative that. And it's all like somebody needs to be a general. Somebody needs to focus on something. You got to allow Josh McDaniels to be the general of the offense. Do what you do best and be the general of the defense. You know what I mean? Yeah. Or don't have your finger in all the pies and just watch from above. I think as this season goes on, you're going to hear me have more and more Vrabel concerns that I'm just starting to I'm just making little notes. Like it's nothing super serious now. It's just little things. I'm looking at it from myself as an athlete, and I'm looking at it from other coaches and the way they handle stuff. Like, like Sean McVay, who I think we could argue is now in that conversation of upper echelons of coaching, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Do you think that guy ever looks at the defense?
I think as much as a head coach should, do
you think he could name 5 defensive players on his team? I say that in jest. Yeah. But again, he leaves he's an offensive mastermind, and he leaves it to his defense, to his defensive players. To offensive coaches. He'll have some conversation, but they'll do it there. I think Vrabel's very involved in everything. And
he's just a different guy too. And to your point of listen, we did something for 20 plus years around here, right? We didn't that's what we were used to. Vrabel's more a rah-rah guy, right? Like his passion is having his hands in everything to some degree.
And I'm just saying my flag is I don't like that. Not just because of Belichick. Because if you go around the NFL and you name every great coach, right? Who's the 5-tool coach of the NFL? Nobody.
Nobody
When
anymore.
you talk about Andy Reid, what is he? Offensive mastermind, right? You talk about McVay, offensive mastermind. Shanahan, offensive mastermind. And you go through Belichick, defensive mastermind. You know what I mean? Like you go through Tomlin, defensive mastermind. You know what I mean? Like you go through the. Actually, you know who had it? You know who was a 5-tool? Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin was probably the closest thing to Vrabel. I'm telling you right now, if you look, Tomlin's probably the closest thing to Vrabel. I'm not saying they're the same coach, but probably the closest thing to Vrabel, and that got him a career of going 500.
Well, I'll just play devil's advocate too. How many coaches that were players played on both sides of the ball and were productive?
Fair.
Okay, right? I know what I'm doing to you, and I'm trying to make a point.
I know what you're saying. You're stretching, but it's okay.
Right.
Go ahead.
Right. And that's my point is he feels like he is proven enough to go, yeah, I can teach you how to run a route as a receiver. I can teach you when to put your foot in the ground.
I know, but he didn't run that many routes. Like he needs to relax.
Right.
He needs to relax.
But again, point being is he feels justified. And then Josh will tell him, like, listen, let Tony Dews or whoever the wide receiver coach is, like, do his job. And Bray will be like, all right, I'll go play with somebody else. I'll go have fun someplace else.
I think that's the thing. Again, I'm not ready. I'm not hitting panic buttons right now. How can you hit a panic button if the guy just brought you to the Super Bowl? However, I look at the Toronto Blue Jays right now and John Schneider, who I think should have been fired last year and 2 years ago, but the guy brought them to the World Series, so now he's wrote his ticket for the next 5 years. You know, because how do you fire the guy that brought you there? I just want you to make these little mental notes, Mike, because when in a year and a half, when everybody else is screaming about Vrabel, I want you, as it usually goes, to be like, you know, Ray was on this first. He already started seeing these warning signs, you know, back then.
Hopefully you're wrong, but
I hope I'm wrong too, but I'm starting to see it. You know what I mean? To me, a coach in any sport, I'm even going back to soccer now, right? Like you can have emotion, but the coach needs to be the calming force in the room, right? Like there's a time to let everything out and there's a time to be relaxed. You know, when you're relaxed after a preseason game and they say to you, why aren't the starters starting? That's the time to be as cool as a cucumber and be like, hey, we're just giving everybody a chance to play. You know that Drake Maye is going to be the quarterback this season. He got his reps during practice. That's the answer, right? That's when you need to be as cool as a cucumber. You need to sit there and be like, I have Josh McDaniels, who is, at least in my opinion, Mike, the greatest offensive coordinator to ever coach in this game. I have the greatest offensive coordinator in the NFL. I shouldn't even know an offensive player's name. I should just go over here and let Josh McDaniel do what he does. I will talk to Drake Maye and Drake Maye only because Drake Maye is a captain and a leader. That's all Belichick spoke to on the offense. Belichick didn't speak to anybody else. He spoke to Brady, right? That was it.
Brady, maybe Edelman. maybe later on too.
He spoke to his quarterbacks. So
yeah.
I'm just saying I'm starting to get these little things. Anywho, I want to do a big shout out to Jarillo, who said I never left Ray. And I know you came back and found us and we appreciate you. I'm sorry for taking so long to get to that comment. I've been staring at it, but Mike and I were talking and I didn't want to break the conversation. Mike, we only got a couple minutes left and I do want to just finish up camp. We won't get into the game because who cares? But let's get in. Let's talk about the offense. Okay, here's what I wrote about the offense, Mike. I said the Patriots offense got a real measuring stick against Vic
Fangio.
Fangio. I don't know why I always struggle with that. Vic Fangio.
You struggle with names.
Defense.
It's okay.
Their unit ranked 11th in DVOA last year, 5th in scoring defense last year, anchored by Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis up front with Quinion Mitchell and Rick Woolen and Cooper DeJean in the secondary. Drake Maye lit them up on Wednesday. Lit them up, especially using play action crosses and shots at A.J. Brown and Romeo Doubs. The Eagles made some adjustments going into Thursday. They bounced back with Jordan Davis giving the interior offensive line a lot of trouble. Maye also pointed, Mike, something that concerned me all of last season, and something that I think is going to concern me this season. And they struggled in the red zone. They struggled in all their red zone stuff. Drake Maye actually spoke about it. Said, there's a lot of bodies in a small amount of space. I feel like we could have done more in the red zone, and that's something that's on us to learn. It's notable. The Patriots ranked 17th in red zone efficiency last season.
Yeah, they were not good.
No, Drake Maye also gave real credit to his offensive line for holding up against a top front for 2 days. Quote, those guys up front never get the love they deserve. Mike, what stood out more to you in those 2 days? Was it the flashes with Brown and Dobbs, or the red zone and O-line battles that still need work?
So I'll tell you, at least from day one, what I liked. And it sounded like they kind of went back and forth on both days, just so we're not the super homer contacts, because everybody loves to get bent out of shape about these joint practices. Day one, the biggest takeaway from me, AJ Brown, from reports on the field and talks on the sidelines amongst reporters from both sides, New England and Philadelphia, was in full gear. And the gear that he was in was something that the Philadelphia reporters said that was something they didn't see all of last year. So that basically confirms that he was kind of lollygagging it because he didn't want to be there. Listen, we knew he wanted to be traded about midway through last year, so that makes sense, which is great, right? It's not the knee that's dogging him. So excellent, awesome. You're going to get 100% physically out of AJ Brown.
Can I ask you a follow-up to that before you do number two?
Yep.
Does it concern you that if he becomes disgruntled, we start seeing that behavior in New England?
Yes, but I'm not going to worry about it for year one. We'll worry about that next year, or if they go on some kind of crazy losing streak. But I'm not gonna try to predict that right now. Number two, and I just forgot his name. The center, the new Jared Wilson, stonewalled Jordan Davis at one point or another, which for a guy who's a smaller, more athletic center to be able to do that, excellent, awesome. Shows that he's still probably getting comfortable with the position, but the potential is there. They made a great move by trading Bradbury and moving on to a younger piece. Third part of that, still offensive line, is Will Campbell had a great day one. Sounded like he traded blows in day two. So, Will Campbell sounds healthy. It sounds like he's taken a step. He's done a lot of work, this offseason. So, let's hope for the best for Will Campbell. All of us out there, or all of you out there who want to trade him for a bag of footballs. I think we're really down on this kid for no reason. So
I understand why people are down on Will Campbell.
Mm-hmm.
I think more than you acknowledge. But I agree. I think we got to give him another season. Hopefully he got bigger. You and I both talked about him having to get bigger in the off season. Yep. I haven't really read reports whether he looks bigger or not. I don't know if you've heard anything.
The only thing I've read is he looks physically better, had a better anchor from Greg Bedard, and some of his technique stuff, according to Evan Lazar, is a lot better. Looks like an offensive lineman going into, year two as opposed to a rookie. So
that's why I wish Will Campbell would have played in the preseason. I would have loved to have watched some of his technique. I complimented his footwork when they drafted him and said that it was, and then it was really bad.
Yeah.
in the NFL, really bad in the NFL. So I wanted to see if we started to see some of that translation from college, the same way like with Travion Henderson, and we're trying to some of the things he did really well for Ohio State. We want to see that translation into the NFL. I think it's going to be a big year for both those guys. I think this year, it's hard, and I know people aren't going to want to hear this, but this year is going to tell me everything I need to know about Travion Henderson and Will Campbell. And this is a guy who watched every snap Travion Henderson took for Ohio State. So it's not my second year watching Henderson play. I'm an OSU guy. I was so excited when they drafted Henderson. Mike knows that is the only guy in the
Yep.
draft I knew. Outside of
I
Will
have
Campbell.
the text. I saved it.
Yes.
Ray fell off the couch.
I was so excited because I knew what that kid was capable of. But I haven't seen that translate in the NFL, and I haven't seen Will Campbell's phenomenal college footwork translate into the NFL. So I'll be really, really interested to see that. Guys, we're running out of time here. I want to get to the comments really quickly, but first, Mike, I want to tell you that the piece I really wanted to get to that we're not going to have time with Saquon Barkley. I don't know if you said he came out and basically said he hates joint practices. Said he likes one day of joint practice, like when people are putting the work in. But I guess, the chippiness and everything, they came day 2 and we saw fights and two teams just got fined like $500,000 for getting into like some fights at joint practices. He hates it. He says like it's you don't get any when guys are working, they're great. When they're not, they're there. And so they should only be one day, not 2. And I'm going to say we saw a good joint practice with Indy, and we saw one really good joint practice with the Eagles, and then we had pushing, shoving, and chippiness day 2 with the Eagles. So I might be on the same boat as him. I want to quickly get to these comments here, and I know some of them are way out of context at this point now, but our boy Thomas Ryan says, Vrabel should have just said what I can gain from my starters playing backup. Agree. It's exactly what I said. He should have just came out and said, basically, I'm not going to gain anything by playing my starters. I want to give, our second and third stringers a chance to develop and play. I lack depth. Thomas also says, were Wilson and Davis ever teammates?
I'm not sure. They may have crossed paths at Georgia. I'll look that up. I'll have that answer for you next time.
Carter said, I read AJ had like 5 touchdowns for Philly. That's in the red zone. Josh has compared physically to Gronk. I'd imagine that will help with red zone struggles. A lot of Dobbs was solid too in GB in the red zone. I think the combination of AJ Brown, Hunter Henry, Dobbs, and I want to just throw out there Mac Hollins as well for the red zone, like just for the red zone. Yeah. I think and if Travion Henderson and Ramondre Stevenson can be effective in the running game or in the passing game out of the backfield too, I think they could really improve it.
Yeah, we didn't get to this. I'll just mention it briefly. Romeo Dobbs has really kicked into a different gear too. Like supposedly like really kicked into another gear.
I heard he started super slow. And the beginning of camp, and I remember they made a mistake signing him, but now he seems to be.
Yes, and Eli Raridan is 6'6", so we might see him, in the red zone at some point.
I had notes.
Season.
I had notes about Raridan that I think will still be good for next year. Oh, next week. Next week. Yeah, Edelman talked about AJ Brown, and then he threw Raridan in there too. So I think. I'm gonna keep this. I'm gonna keep these notes.
We like tight ends around here, so we'll play that next time.
Carter says Campbell worked with Teron Armstead, Tristan Wirfs, and some other veterans, and he has solid one-on-one camp for the most part. Travion got hurt today too. Yeah, we talked about Travion at the beginning. I'm concerned about that. Yeah, again, I haven't got to see Will Campbell. I've only heard about what Will Campbell has done. I'm excited to see. I'm hoping he gets some. I know Lemieux, what's his name?
Lomu. Yeah.
Lomu will probably get a majority of the snaps for their third and final preseason game. I think they're really trying to see what they got out of that kid.
Yeah, he was out there almost the whole game.
Yeah, I like him. I see for anybody who's new, because we obviously have a lot of new people. I was an offensive lineman. I was a left guard for most of my football career. Played at high levels. There's a lot of holes to his game, which I can get into more next week, Mike, if you want.
Yeah, we can do that.
There's a lot of holes in his game, but I think he's solid. But when he was drafted, you told me he's a project, and I see that he's a project. So I'm hoping Will Campbell gets some snaps in the third game. I'd love to see a couple. Yeah. No. I hope.
You want Campbell to?
Yeah,
Gotcha.
I hope Will Campbell gets at least at least one set of downs, or maybe 2. I just want to watch a couple of things, a little bit of his footwork, a little bit of first steps, and that kind of thing. A couple of things that we saw him improve, and then he got injured, and it all kind of fell off a cliff for him.
Yeah.
So I want to see what happens. I also think too he was really injured between the ears. I'm going to be honest with you. I think I think mentally he was screwed last year, and he couldn't get it back together.
That can't be overlooked, especially with the rookie wall. And I'll add one little piece here, 10 seconds. Greg Bedard, who charts this stuff, the one-on-ones, he said his Will Campbell's one-on-ones last year are very similar to Caleb Lomu's this year. In other words, like, you're kind of losing about anywhere from 50 to 75% of your reps on any given, start. So they're kind of in the same bracket, just like you see the difference between a second-year player and a rookie, whereas Will Campbell now is winning the vast majority of his reps. So
which
again, let's not discount the fact that, again, and we didn't really bring it up, but what a rookie wall means to a player. Maybe we can talk about that more in, next week or at another point.
And again, I think this year will be fair to put the expectations we should have for Will Campbell this year are probably the expectations everybody had for him last year.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting. There's a couple interesting pieces. Cut day is going to be fun. It's going to be it's going to be interesting to see.
Yep.
Because as Mike Vrabel said, the Patriots don't have any depth.
I'm going to see. I'll be interested to see who gets the Foxborough flu. In about 2 weeks.
And goes on the season-ending IR or what, all that.
Yeah, or the guy, they do the game with the veterans where they cut them and then bring them back like 15 minutes later, for like the roster spot crap that, they always do.
Yeah. Remember they did that with Demaryius Thomas, and then they traded Demaryius Thomas and signed AJ Brown.
You mean Antonio? Yes, I do. Best wide receiver core that never was.
No trade, but trade booty. We discussed that earlier in the show. If anybody wants to watch that, we did discuss the trade. Like, that's it. Look, guys, we will be here every Monday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 to 11, to talk about your New England Patriots. As always, if you enjoyed this conversation, hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. Hear everything that we have to say about the New England Patriots. We didn't do that at all last year. Tell people to hit the like button and subscribe and all that kind of stuff. But for those of you who are here, hit that like button. Appreciate all of y'all. Listen, for Dear Pats Nation, I'm Ray. That's Mike. Mike, tell me about those Patriots.
They're gonna be legit, kid.
Dear Pats Nation, it's just about time. Yeah, we're back. It's Dear Pats Nation. Yeah.